Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from our IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the matrix labs, the video number 65. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. While still working with the Purple Knight Active Directory Security Assessment Tool, which is a free tool to assess your security status concerning your Active Directory, and we are talking about the report that is generated by this tool, and we are talking about the Kerberos security tests. We are focusing, or we are talking about the security configuration concerning the Kerberos. So we are talking about one of these security indicators, or one of the most important configurations for the Kerberos: accounts with constrained delegation configured to KRBTGT. Let's ask the AI tools to explain this test and see what is the why it is dangerous to delegate, or to delegate a computer account or a user account to talk to the KRBTGT service account. This is very, very critical. So let's go and ask ChatGPT first to explain it. First of all, here is the prompt that we are using to make it explain any text we need or anything we need. So here we will take this one. Okay, this is the security indicator. We will copy it and then put it to the prompt, and then shift enter to add more lines, to add more text to the prompt. So now I will take the rest of the security indicator. I'll take the description section and the like code of compromise section and the title, and add them to the AI prompt to ask it to explain all of them. And we can see from the prompt I'm asking it to explain using terminology glossary, then to simplify it using layman terms or non-technical terms, then use technical terms. Okay, and at the end using real-world example in the context of Active Directory for a domain named matrix.internal. So here we are asking the AI tool to explain it in different levels or different user levels. First of all, the technical terms, the non-technical terms for non-technical users, and at the end we are explaining using a real-world example. Okay, create and use visual aids to illustrate the real-world example network layout, and then we will begin putting the text we need in double quote. So here it is. So explain using terminology glossary, then layman terms, then using technical terms, then at the end use a real-world example in the context of Active Directory for a domain named matrix.internal. Create and use visual aids to illustrate the real-world example network layout, and then we put the text, and then let's ask the AI tool to explain it in details. Now let's see the answer of ChatGPT 4.0. Okay, now here is the answer. Let's see, he's still generating the answer. Now we can go to Claude and ask it the same question like this one, and let's do the same. And then we can go also to Perplexity to ask the same question, to do like that, and then do like this, and do like that. So now we have three different AI tools. Okay, as we see here, he is giving us the layout. Maybe it's not a graph, but it is very, very simple. We can see the workstation, and then we have service with constrained delegation, and then okay, we have the domain controller. We have access to KRBTG, compromise ticket, grant ticket, unrestricted domain access. We will see all of the answer in a minute. This is the answer of ChatGPT 4.0, and then we have Perplexity. Let's see also the answer of Perplexity here. Now we can see here this also again we can see here that all of these diagrams are very, very simple, okay, to explain the concept or explain the security indicator we are talking about. So let's go and see also Claude. As we can see here, Claude has already generated a very complicated diagram. We will read it and we'll see how this diagram will explain the concept we are talking about. So this is also a diagram, and here we can see this is also the explanation. Let's go and first of all read the first one, which is for perplexity. Let's read the answer and see what does it say exactly. Okay, and we can see here this is the answer, and I think he is not giving any reference here. So this is generated without any reference or without uh, uh, any reference links or any reference. Anyway, this is perplexity always give us a reference, but I think here this is generated by the AI of perplexity. But anyway, let's see the answer and then see if it is correct or not. Okay, here you go. We read it loud, this section.
Terminology glossary. Kerberos, a network authentication protocol designed to provide secure authentication over insecure networks. Delegation, the ability of a service to act on behalf of a user to access resources. Constrained delegation, a type of delegation that restricts which services an account can impersonate. KRBDGT, the service account for the Kerberos ticket granting service, responsible for issuing ticket granting tickets, TGTs. Ticket granting ticket, TGT, a ticket used in Kerberos authentication that allows users to request access to services. Golden ticket, a forged TGT that can grant access to any service in the domain. Layman's terms. In simple terms, Kerberos is like a security guard that checks your ID before letting you into a building. When you want to enter different rooms or services, you need special passes, tickets. Delegation is when someone else can use your pass to enter rooms on your behalf. Constrained delegation means they can only enter specific rooms and not all of them. The KRBDGT account is like the main security guard who issues these passes. If someone has a special permission to ask this guard for passes as if they were you, it could lead to serious security problems, like someone getting unauthorized access to everything. Technical terms. In an Active Directory environment, accounts can be configured with constrained delegation to the KRBDGT account, allowing them to generate TGS requests on behalf of any user. This configuration poses significant security risks, as it enables the compromised account to obtain TGTs similar to golden tickets. Monitoring for such configurations is crucial, as legitimate accounts should not have delegation set towards the KRBDGT service. Real-world example in Active Directory context. Consider a domain named matrix.internal, where we have several accounts and services. Network layout visualization. Text plus matrix.internal plus domain controllers plus v plus users plus v plus services plus. Example scenario. Account configuration. An account named Service Account 1 has been configured with constrained delegation to the KRBDGT account. Potential attack vector. If an attacker compromises Service Account 1, they can generate TGTs for any user within the domain, effectively allowing them unauthorized access to resources. Mitigation strategy. Regular audits should be performed on accounts with delegation settings, specifically looking for any that delegate permissions to the KRBDGT account. If found, immediate action should be taken to revoke these delegations and investigate potential breaches. By understanding these concepts and their implications in the context of Active Directory, organizations can better safeguard their networks against unauthorized access and potential breaches.
So as we can see here, maybe the explanation is simple, but I think the real world example is not that convincing for me. So let's see the answer of ChatGPT for all. Maybe it's more convincing. If we go and try to read the explanation, let's go and read it loudly.
Explanation of constrained delegation to KRBTGT and Active Directory. Terminologies glossary. 1. Active Directory AD, a directory service by Microsoft for managing permissions and access to networked resources in a domain environment. 2. Domain, a logical grouping of network computers and resources within AD, in this case, matrix.internal. 3. Kerberos, a network authentication protocol that uses tickets to allow nodes to communicate over a non-secure network securely. 4. Ticket Granting Ticket, TGT, an authentication ticket in Kerberos that allows users to request access to network services without re-entering credentials. 5. Ticket Granting Service, a Kerberos service responsible for granting tickets to services after authenticating users with a valid TGT. 6. KRBT Account, a special account in AD used for encrypting and decrypting TGTs, effectively a cornerstone in Kerberos authentication. 7. Constrained delegation allows services to access other services on behalf of a user, but only to a specific set of services. 8. Golden Ticket, a forged Kerberos TGT that grants unrestricted access to a domain, typically created by attackers for persistent access. Layman's terms, in Active Directory, which is used for managing access in a network, Kerberos authentication lets users log in once and access various resources without logging in again. To do this, Kerberos issues tickets, like digital IDs, proving who users are. The KRBT account is critical because it creates the main ticket used to access services. If constrained delegation is set up incorrectly, certain accounts can create tickets that impersonate any user, even giving them full access like a golden ticket. This is dangerous because it gives an attacker control as if they are the AD admin, which is why constrained delegation to KRBGT is not allowed by default and should be avoided. Technical explanation. In an Active Directory setup matrix.internal, constrained delegation can allow services to request access to other services on behalf of users within specified boundaries. However, configuring constrained delegation to the KRBGT account allows a service to generate TGS requests directly for the KRBGT service. This is a significant security risk because it could allow a principal to create a TGT as any user, mimicking a golden ticket attack. Such TGTs allow unrestricted access across the domain, effectively compromising the domain's security. Real-world example with visual aid. Imagine matrix.internal, a company domain with an Active Directory setup. This domain has a few servers, workstations, and critical accounts, including KRBTGT. Here's a possible scenario. 1. The domain controller DC manages authentication and access. 2. There are various service accounts, e.g. for applications, configured with constrained delegation to specific services. 3. If an attacker gains access to a service account with delegation rights to KRBGT, they could craft TGTs for any user, accessing all resources as an admin. Below is a network layout that visually illustrates this scenario, showing accounts with constrained delegation permissions, the potential route for compromise via the KRBGT delegation, and an example access escalation. Plain text matrix.internal network layout, user workstation, domain controller V, service account with constrained delegation, PA, access to KRB T, compromise TGT, unrestricted domain access summary. Risk: if any service account is set to delegate to KRBT, an attacker can misuse it to gain domain-wide access. Detection: identify constrained delegations to KRBT to flag potential high-risk accounts. Mitigation: remove any delegations to KG to secure the domain against golden ticket attacks.
So this is the answer, and it's much better than Perplexity. But again, the example is not that good or not that real. I think the one that will be more real is the one provided by Claude. As we can see here, this is let's see, here is the diagram. We can see we have a compromised service account, and we can see we have domain controllers, replication. So this is, I think, a more real example. We can see here these two domain controllers, replication, and this is domain resources. We have file server, we have SQL server, we have web server. Okay, and I think this is an application, okay, or a service account for an application. Okay, okay, that uh, will talk to the KRBTG account. So here we can see this is talking, can generate tickets for regular users, then normal access to servers, SQL servers, web servers. So if this application, so I think the user should talk to the web server or the application on the web server. Then when he talk to the application on the web server, the service that will run the application on the web server will go and ask the KRBTG account to generate a ticket grant service to access maybe file server or a SQL database attached to the web server that have the application also, or a file server. Anyway, let's see the explanation, but this is a very, very good example. We can see here can generate tickets as regular users, normal access as an admin. Okay, this is more dangerous. So we can see here potential unauthorized access if this is compromised. So this is the normal process and this is the compromised process. Okay, and let's see the answer, or let's see how he will explain this using this example, because we don't know actually how is the network setup is, or what is talking to what. Let's read the answer and see how he will explain his answer. So let's go and see now the answer and what is written. Okay.
TS potential impact on the domain security. Let me break this down in different ways. Terminology glossary. KRBGT. The Kerberos Ticket Granting Ticket, TGT Service Account. TGT. Ticket Granting Ticket. The initial ticket that proves a user's identity. TGS. Ticket Granting Service. A ticket that allows access to specific services. Constrained Delegation. A feature that allows a service to impersonate a user to access specific services. Golden Ticket. A forged ticket granting ticket that provides persistent domain access. Layman's terms. Imagine a secure building where you need two types of passes. First, you get an ID badge, TGT, from security. Then, you use that ID badge to get specific room access cards, TGS. The problem here is like giving someone, an account, the ability to make copies of anyone's ID badge, TGT, by tricking the security office, KRBTGT. It's dangerous because they could pretend to be anyone in the building. Technical terms. In the authentication flow, a compromised account with constrained delegation to KRBTGT can request a TGS for the KRBTGT service. This allows the account to generate service tickets for the KRBTGT service. These service tickets effectively become new TGTs. The account can then generate tickets for any service as any user. This provides similar capabilities to a golden ticket attack. Real-world example, matrix.internal. Let's create another diagram showing the specific network layout for matrix.internal. Matrix.internal network layout. Click to open diagram. In this real-world example for matrix.internal. Configuration. Domain. Matrix.internal. Domain controllers. DC1.matrix.internal, primary, and DC2.matrix.internal, backup. Compromised account. SVC_app01 service account. Attack scenario. The service account SVC_app01 has been misconfigured with constrained delegation to KRBTGT. This allows SVC_app01 to request TGS tickets for the KRBTGT service. Using this delegation, SVC_app01 can generate tickets as any user in matrix.internal. Bypass normal security controls. Detection. PowerShell command to detect this configuration. PowerShell. Copy. Get AD object filter if it's allowed to delegate to, like asterisk KRBTGT asterisk. Properties MSDS allowed to delegate to. Mitigation. Remove the constrained delegation configuration from the affected account. PowerShell. Copy. Set a object identity. CN equals SVC underscore app01. CN equals users. DC equals matrix. DC equals internal. Clear and is allowed to delegate to. Audit all service accounts for similar misconfigurations. Monitor for delegation changes using Windows Event ID 4738. This real-world example shows how a seemingly minor misconfiguration in Active Directory delegation settings can lead to a significant security breach in the matrix.internal domain, effectively giving a service account domain-wide impersonation capabilities. The diagrams show both the attack flow and the network layout to help visualize how this misconfiguration can be exploited and its potential impact on the domain security. Copy. Retry. Claude can make.
So if we go there and see the example, for example, we have here the users, okay, need to talk to a service account. Okay, this account or this service account will run an application that is hosted on the web server. Okay, or maybe this is an application the users talk to access resources. Maybe this is the more normal situation that we have a web server that has an application on it, and this application to access this application on the web server need to authenticate the user or to make sure that the user credentials are on the domain controller. So it needs to query the domain controller for some reason, okay, to get the user's data. Okay, so to do that, I think this example is not that good. Let's tell it to give us a real world example to make it more clear. Give me a real world example in the context of Active Directory. Let's see, this is an error, but we can do it like that. So you can take the same one and ask so I think he's giving us, okay, let's talk a fictional scenario. Okay, so he is giving us a scenario. Okay, I think this is good because this will be a real world example. Okay, and now we can see what is the answer, and then we can also ask ChatGPT to do the same. If we go there and see the example here, so we have let's first read the example and then see the diagram. Okay, and go there and see if we have anything else. So if we can reload. Okay, anyway, so I think one of them is not generated. Let's see here the answer. So here is the example. Let's read it.
Start new chat. Let me walk you through a real-world scenario at a fictional company called TechCorp. Scenario: the SharePoint Service Account Incident. Company context: Company, TechCorp International. Domain, techcorp.local. Environment size, 5,000 users. Critical applications: SharePoint, CRM system, HR portal. Initial setup: PowerShell. Copy. Hashtag original SharePoint service account configuration username SVC underscore SharePoint. Same account name SVC underscore SharePoint. User principal name SVC underscore SharePoint at techcorp.local. Description SharePoint service account. Password never expires $true. Enabled $true. The misconfiguration. During a SharePoint upgrade, a junior administrator was following an outdated guide and accidentally configured constrained delegation to KRBGT while trying to set up SharePoint service account permissions. PowerShell. Copy. Hashtag the dangerous misconfiguration say the object identity. CN equals SVC underscore SharePoint. CN equals users. DC equals TechCorp. DC equals local. Add at MSD is allowed to delegate to equals krbgd/techcorp.local. Let's create another diagram showing the attack surface this created. Attack surface and impact analysis. Click to open diagram. Detection of the issue. The security team discovered this during a routine audit using the following PowerShell script. PowerShell. Copy. Hashtag audit script that found the issue the object filter is allowed to delegate to, like asterisk KRBGT asterisk. Properties is allowed to delegate to select object name. MS disallowed to delegate to format table auto size. Impact. The SVC underscore SharePoint account could generate tickets as any user in the domain, access any resource with the impersonated user's privileges, potentially create persistent backdoor access. Affected systems. All domain joined computers. All file shares. All internal applications. Email systems. Database servers. Incident response. Immediate mitigation. PowerShell. Copy. Hashtag remove the dangerous delegation say the object identity. CN equals SVC underscore SharePoint. CN equals users. DC equals TechCorp, DC equals local. ClearIM is allowed to delegate to hashtag force reset the service account passwords account password identity, SVC underscore SharePoint. Reset, new password, convert to secure string as plain text. New complex pass 123. Force. Security measures implemented. PowerShell. Copy. Hashtag create GPO to audit delegation changes new GPO name, audit delegation changes. Comment monitors delegation configuration changes. Hashtag configure advanced audit policy auditpol /set /subcategory. Authentication policy change /success. Enable /failure. Enable hashtag setup alert for delegation change SWEPTLSL security /e true. Long-term fixes. Created a delegation approval process. Implemented quarterly delegation audits. Updated SharePoint service account documentation. Added delegation checks to change management process. Monitoring setup. PowerShell. Copy. Hashtag created scheduled task to monitor delegation changes $action equals new scheduled task action execute. PowerShell.exe. Argument. No profile. Window style hidden command and GD object. Filter. MS is allowed to delegate to, like asterisk. Properties MS is allowed to delegate to export CSV path. C:\/audit \delegation audit $$ left parenthesis get -date. Format YYMMDD. .csv. $trigger equals new scheduled task trigger daily. At 3 a.m. register scheduled task action $action trigger $trigger task name daily. Delegation audit. Description daily audit of AD delegations. Lessons learned. Regular audits of service account permissions are crucial. Change management processes must include security reviews. Documentation must be kept up to date. Security training for IT staff needs to include delegation risks. The diagrams above illustrate the overall domain structure and where the misconfiguration occurred. The expanded attack surface created by the misconfiguration. The potential impact and access paths created by the delegation. This real-world example shows how a simple misconfiguration during a routine system upgrade can create a significant security risk in an Active Directory environment. The incident response process demonstrates the importance of having proper detection mechanisms and response procedures in place.
So let's see the diagram after explaining it. If you go there and try to see the diagram, and we can zoom a little bit. So here we can see that this is the SharePoint. Okay, service account. You can generate tickets as any user can access domain resources, including financial data, HR record, executive emails. So this is before misconfiguration. This is the SharePoint can access SharePoint web application, can access SharePoint database. So any user should talk to this service account. So this service account should talk to the KDC on behalf of the user to get ticket grant service to access the applications on the SharePoint web or database. Okay, so this is the normal configuration. Here there is a misconfiguration to talk to the KRBTG service account directly. Okay, so this will let the situation be like that. It can generate a ticket for any user to access any resources in the domain, because this service account can issue now any ticket grant service to any service in the domain. So this is not only to the SharePoint services, but to any service in the domain. So this is very good example. I think it is the best one, but explained until now. But let's go and see if there is anything else. I think I have already told ChatGPT to give me an example. Where is the? I think it didn't go. So let's go and tell it Control Z. Let's see if we can tell him to give us an example. So here we can go and take the same prompt and ask it for ChatGPT. Here we can copy it and ask ChatGPT to provide a real world example. So here again he is not giving us uh, the configuration. Okay, so here is also not giving us a real world example. I need a real world example to explain this topic, but this is not that good anyway. So now we have a complete view about what is this test talking about. Okay, you cannot make a service talk directly to the KRBTGT service account, which is responsible for generating ticket grant tickets. Okay, this should be done in the normal process. Okay, the user or anyone should talk to the KRBTG uh, service account, I think through the KDC maybe. Anyway, so this is one of the things why you should not delegate uh, access to the KRBTG service account. Now we can go to the next one, which is account with constrained delegation configured to a ghost SPN. So here you are have an account that will talk to another. We have a service account that will talk to another service account which is not there anymore. Okay, so accounts with constrained delegation configured to ghost SPN. Okay, so here if we go and see how this will be explained, we have the same prompt and we will ask ChatGPT to do the same, and we will ask Claude to do the same. So we'll go and take the same prompt. Here you go, and then we will take the same prompt, but I will do something here. I will shift to O1, which is a better AI, but still in the preview mode. If we go there and go and ask to explain that, so we go and copy the security indicator and then put it like that, and then have shift and enter, and then we can go and take the description and the likelihood of compromisation, and then we can go copy it and put it to ChatGPT, and then we can do like that and make Control A and Control C, Now we have the all prompt here, and then we will ask it to provide us with the answer, and then we can go to Claude and do the same, and we'll go to Perplexity and do the same. Okay, just a moment, guys. So let's continue, guys. Let's see the answer of Perplexity concerning the topic that we are talking about, concerning delegation to a ghost service principal name. A ghost service principal name, I think it refers to a service account that is deleted, but its principal name is still there. So this is an issue. You need to, when you delete a service account, you need to make sure that its service principal name is not there anymore. So the purpose will not or this service principal name can be associated with another service account or a hacker account or anything else that will appear after attaching this principal name to it to be a service account which can be used in dangerous actions. So let's see the answer of Perplexity, and then we can go and see the answer of Claude and ChatGPT. Okay, let's see that.
Terminology glossary. Service principal name. SPN, a unique identifier for a service instance in Kerberos authentication, allowing clients to authenticate to the service. Delegation. The ability of a service to act on behalf of a user to access resources. Constrained delegation. A specific type of delegation that restricts which services an account can impersonate. Ghost SPN. An SPN that is no longer associated with an active service, often due to decommissioned servers or applications. MSDS Aloueto Delegatido. An Active Directory attribute that specifies which services an account can delegate permissions to. Layman's terms. Imagine a situation where you have a key to a building, the service, and you can allow someone else to use the key for certain rooms. Delegation. A service principal name, SPN, is like the name tag for that building, helping people know what it is. When a building is shut down, but the key still allows access, that's called a ghost SPN. If someone finds this key and knows how to use it, they could sneak into rooms they shouldn't be able to access. In simpler terms, if old keys aren't taken away when buildings are closed, it creates a security risk. Technical terms. In an Active Directory environment, accounts may be configured with constrained delegation to ghost SPNs, which are SPNs that no longer correspond to active services. This misconfiguration can allow an attacker with sufficient privileges to manipulate the service principal name attribute of a legitimate service account, potentially escalating privileges and facilitating lateral movement within the network. Monitoring for such ghost SPNs is crucial, as they represent significant security vulnerabilities. Real-world example in Active Directory context. Consider a domain named matrix.internal, where we have various services and accounts configured for delegation. Network layout visualization. Text. Plus matrix.internal plus domain controllers plus v plus active services plus v plus decommissioned services plus. Example scenario. Account configuration. An account named Old Service Account has constrained delegation configured to a ghost SPN associated with a decommissioned application. Potential attack vector. If an attacker gains access to Old Service Account, they can write to the service principal name attribute of another active service account. This could allow them to impersonate that service and escalate their privileges across the infrastructure. Mitigation strategy. Regular audits should be conducted on delegation configurations, particularly focusing on identifying ghost SPNs in the MSDS Aloueto Delegatido attribute. Any outdated or unnecessary delegations should be removed promptly to mitigate risks associated with privilege escalation. By understanding these concepts and their implications in the context of Active Directory, organizations can better protect their networks from unauthorized access and potential security breaches.
So this is the answer. I think it's not that good, but it is illustrating the concept of delegation to a ghost service principal name. Let's see the answer of ChatGPT 01 and see if it will give us a better answer. So here let's read the explanation. I think it's
Terminology glossary. 1. Active Directory, AD, a directory service by Microsoft that manages permissions and access to networked resources in a Windows environment. 2. Service Principal Name, SPN, a unique identifier for a service instance used in Kerberos authentication to associate a service with a service account. 3. Constrained Delegation, a security feature that allows a service to impersonate a user to access specific services on their behalf, but only to specified services. 4. MSDS allowed to delegate to attribute, an attribute in Active Directory that lists the SPNs to which an account is allowed to delegate. 5. Ghost SPN, an SPN that references a service or computer that no longer exists in the domain, e.g. due to decommissioning. 6. Decommissioned computers, computers that have been removed from service but may still have configurations or references remaining in Active Directory. 7. Privilege escalation, gaining higher access levels than initially permitted, often through exploiting vulnerabilities. 8. Lateral movement, the technique attackers use to move through a network to gain access to additional resources. Explanation in layman's terms. When a company removes old computers or services from their network, sometimes they forget to clean up all the settings related to those computers. This leftover information can be like leaving a key under the doormat. If a bad actor finds this key, the leftover settings, they can use it to unlock doors, services they shouldn't have access to. Essentially, they can pretend to be a trusted service and move around the network, accessing sensitive information. It's important to regularly check and remove these leftover settings to keep the network secure. Technical explanation. In an Active Directory environment, when computers or services are decommissioned, delegation configurations pointing to their SPNs are often left behind in the MSDS allowed to delegate to attribute of service accounts. Attackers with the ability to write to the service principal name attribute of an account can register these ghost SPNs to their own accounts. This abuse allows them to impersonate services and perform constrained delegation to services they should not have access to, leading to privilege escalation and lateral movement within the network. Identifying accounts with constrained delegation configured to non-existent, ghost SPNs is crucial, as they pose significant security risks and are indicators of potential compromise. Real-world example in the context of Active Directory for matrix.internal. Scenario. In the matrix.internal domain, there's an application server, appserver.matrix.internal, running a service account, appservice. Previously, there was a backend service, oldbackend.matrix.internal, that has since been decommissioned. However, the app service account still has constrained delegation rights to HTTP oldbackend.matrix.internal in its MSDS allowed to delegate to attribute. An attacker gains control over a standard user account, evil user. They notice that HTTP oldbackend.matrix.internal is a ghost SPN because oldbackend.matrix.internal no longer exists. The attacker then, 1. registers the ghost SPN, adds HTTP oldbackend.matrix.internal to the service principal name attribute of evil user. 2. Exploits constrained delegation, since app service is allowed to delegate to HTTP oldbackend.matrix.internal, and evil user now holds that SPN. The attacker can impersonate users to services app service has access to. 3. Privilege escalation and lateral movement. The attacker accesses sensitive data on other servers or escalates privileges by impersonating higher privileged accounts. Network layout description, domain controllers, dc1.matrix.internal, dc2.matrix.internal, servers, appserver.matrix.internal, active, running app service, old backend.matrix.internal, decommissioned. Service accounts, app service, service account for appserver.matrix.internal. User accounts, evil user, compromised account, admin user, domain administrator. Steps illustrated. 1. Decommissioned service not cleaned up. App service still has delegation rights to HTTP old backend.matrix internal. 2. Attacker registers ghost SPN. Evil user adds HTTP old backend.matrix.internal to their own SPNs. 3. Abusive delegation. App service unknowingly delegates to evil user, thinking it's old backend.matrix.internal. 4. Privilege escalation. Evil user now acts on behalf of app service, accessing resources and services. Visual aid description. 1. Diagram components, nodes, DC1 and DC2, representing domain controllers. App server, active server with app service. Evil user, malicious user node. Old backend, decommissioned server, faded or crossed out. 2. Connections, an arrow from app service to HTTP old backend.matrix.internal, delegation path. An arrow from evil user to HTTP old backend matrix.internal, SPN registration. An arrow from evil user to sensitive resources, showing access. 3. Annotations. Ghost SPN, highlighted to show that HTTP old backend.matrix.internal does not exist. Privilege escalation path. Emphasize path showing how evil user gains elevated access. Mitigation strategies, regular audits. Periodically check for ghost SPNs and the MSDS allowed to delegate to attributes. Cleanup procedures. Establish protocols to remove delegation rights and SPNs when decommissioning services. Monitoring changes. Use security tools to monitor changes to SPN registrations and delegation settings. Least privilege principle. Limit who can write to service principal name attributes and who has delegation rights. By understanding and visualizing this scenario within matrix.internal, it's clear how leftover configurations can be exploited, emphasizing the importance of diligent Active Directory housekeeping to maintain a secure network environment.
So as we can see here, very, very good explanation. I think this is very, very good. If we go to Claude and see the answer, Claude seems to be more practical. He's giving us the example and how to solve it using PowerShell, which is not done by ChatGPT o1 or Perplexity, which is a very, very good approach to give you the example and how to solve it using the available tools. So if you go there and try to see, again, he's using the same concept. If we go there and try to read the answer, if we go and try to read the answer for Claude, let's see the answer here. Again, he is giving us the terminologies the same as the other ones, but here he's giving us more details. If we go there and try to read it.
Start new chat. Start chat to use often. Recents. Outdoor network cabinet design. Terminology glossary. SPN. Service principal name, a unique identifier for a service instance in Active Directory. Ghost SPN. An SPN that's configured in a terminology glossary. SPN. Service principal name, a unique identifier for a service instance in Active Directory. Ghost SPN. An SPN that's configured in a delegation but no longer exists in the domain. Constrained delegation. A feature allowing a service to impersonate users to specific services. MS de Salawento Delegatido. AD attribute that specifies which services an account can delegate to. Lateral movement. The technique of moving between systems in a network. Layman's terms. Imagine a building security system where security cards are programmed to grant access to specific rooms delegation. A room gets demolished, but the security cards still have it listed, Ghost SPN. Someone can create a new room with the same room number. They can now use the old security card permissions for their new room. This creates an unintended security bypass. Technical terms. Let's create a diagram showing the technical flow. Technical attack flow. Click to open diagram. Real-world example. Matrix.internal. Let's visualize a real network layout for Matrix.internal. Matrix.internal network layout. Click to open diagram. Real-world scenario for matrix.internal. Initial state. PowerShell. Copy. Hashtag original SQL server, now decommissioned. $old server equals oldsql.matrix.internal $old SPN equals MSSQL SVC / $old server. Hashtag service account with delegation to the old server $SVC account equals SVC _ SQL. Misconfiguration detection. PowerShell. Copy. Hashtag PowerShell script to find ghosts the object filter. And it's allowed to delegate to like asterisk. Properties and it's allowed to delegate to for each object $account equals $for $account. And it's allowed to delegate to for each object $SPN equals $_if. Not get a D object filter, service principal name. EQ $SPN, write output, ghost SPN found. $SPN on account $account. Name. Attack scenario. PowerShell. Copy. Hashtag attacker registers the ghost SPN on their controlled account's user identity. SVC _ web. Service principal names at add equals MSSQL SVC / oldsql.matrix.internal. Impact. The attacker can now impersonate any user to services that trusted the old SQL server. Move laterally through the network. Access resources with elevated privileges. Mitigation steps. PowerShell. Copy. Hashtag remove ghost SPN delegation $account equals get AD object filter. It's allowed to delegate to like asterisk oldsql.matrix.internal asterisk. Set AD object identity $account clear. MSDS allowed to delegate to hashtag create monitoring rule $monitoring rule equals at get AD object filter. MSDS allowed to delegate to like asterisk. Properties MSDS allowed to delegate to select object name and name equals ghost SPNs. Expression equals $_ and is allowed to delegate to where object, not get AD object filter. Service principal name. EQ $_ where object $_ ghost SPNs at. Prevention measures for matrix.internal. Create decommissioning checklist including delegation cleanup. Regular automated audits of SPNs and delegations. Implement change management for server decommissioning. Monitor for new SPN registrations. The diagrams illustrate the concept of ghost SPNs and how they can be exploited. The technical attack flow and delegation process. The actual network layout of matrix.internal showing the relationship between active and decommissioned servers. This real-world example demonstrates how failing to clean up delegations during server decommissioning can create security vulnerabilities that attackers can exploit for privilege escalation and lateral movement within the domain.
Very, very good example. I can see here. Here is the diagram. The service account has constrained delegation to an old one, no longer exists. Decommissioned server, attacker controlled account. This is the SPN. Or he controlled the service account that has delegation to this account, okay, or this no longer available account, registered the same SPN to a different service, now can persuade users to target services, which is very, very good. If you go and see, there is a diagram. If we go further, here is the attack flow diagram. I think this is not the GOAT SPN. If we try to, okay, he didn't, there is error with the mermaid version anyway. So this is a very good explanation, and we can see the different AI tools giving different answers with different perspectives. So this is very, very good actually. We can go and take another indicator, which is Kerberos KRBTGT account with old password. We all know now this account, what does it do exactly. This account or this service account has a password which need to be changed every 180 days, as according to the Department of Defense of the United States, or as Microsoft recommends every once a year. Okay, we have a very simple way to do that. We can do it by resetting, right click the account and reset. in the Active Directory, but this should be done twice because this is not a normal account. If this account is not working, you will not be able to authenticate or log in any user to the domain. This should be done using specific steps, okay? And there is some scripts that you can use to automate this process, where there is some scripts in Microsoft GitHub section, and there is also another GitHub for the script author, okay? So we have two, but I think we can use the updated version of this script. So anyway, here is the script. We can download it and use it to change the KRBTG password, but you should take care because this service account specifically, its password should be changed with very cautious. Okay, if we go and see the steps to do that, if you don't need to use this, need to use this script, you can ask, or we can search for KRB DHT password reset. There is a couple of things here. If you go to see the steps, here you will see that there is some recommendations concerning this process. Okay, you can do simply by going to the Active Directory and reset the password, but here is some things to do. You should perform this operation twice, and it is recommended to do that not during the peak hours in your network. This should be done during a vacation of the employees when there is no work in the domain. This should be done in a maintenance window. You should not do this during the operation. You should perform this operation twice. When resetting key distribution center service account password twice, a 10-hour waiting period is required between the two resets. So you will make a first reset and wait for 10 hours and then do another reset. Why is that? Because the maximum lifetime for the user ticket and maximum lifetime for service ticket are 10 hours. So the TGT lifetime and the TGS lifetime is 10 hours. So why is that? Because the password for this account will encrypt and decrypt TGT and TGS and generate also the tickets. So here we need to make sure that the new TGT and TGS encryption and generation are done with the new password, not the old password. So this is a step to do here. So we can see this is very, very important. And then we see the password value for the KRBTG is 2, meaning it includes the 2 most recent password. By resetting the password twice, you effectively clear any old password from the history. So there is no way another DC will replicate with this DC by using old password. So here is the password history. It's only remembered the last 2 passwords. Okay, so this is, I think, a security precaution not to remember much password or to have always a unique password. Okay, this is very, very good way when you are. I think this also can be implemented on service accounts. You should make the password history for these accounts to be very, very low. Okay, so not to remember to have always a unique password for the service accounts, which regularly have very high privileges in the domain. Okay, so this is one thing we need to make sure that our KRBTGT service account password is changed. Okay, and we have seen also that this account, as we have seen in all of the previous answers, is critical for encrypting and decrypting TGT and TGS and generating these tickets. So we can see here that he found that I didn't change this password for this account for 180 days. So here this is a finding. You should reset the password, but again you need to make sure that you do this process with the steps that Microsoft said in its official documentation, and you can do this as we see here in a manual way, and then you can do it also in a scripting way. If you go and see the GitHub page for this script, which is resetting KRBTG password for our WDC. And so let me do a little bit of a trick here. If I try to take this script and ask Perplexity or ask ChatGPT to explain the script, let's try to copy okay this data, and then go to Claude and ask to explain this script in simple terms. Let's see how this can be explained, and then we can go again and copy. But he's saying that the conversation is 44 over the limit, so I think we can initialize a new chat window. So we could start a new window and then put this Control V, explain in simple terms, and then we can go again and copy. Or does it contains a lot of data? I think let's see here if this is okay. So again, I think he will not able to explain the script because it's over the limit size. Okay, so okay, I can do this from ChatGPT. If we go copy and ask ChatGPT to explain this script, if we go there and ask it to explain in simple terms, but I think we don't have any attachments here, but I think we can do this by Control V. So we can copy the script and do like this and copy, and then go to ChatGPT and Control V. Then we can go to the last parameter. Okay, then we can tell him like this one, and why it's not giving me, I think here he's not accepting, or the script is too large maybe. Anyway, so we can take it in a file and put it, but anyway, this can be done using a lot of ways anyway. But here, this is the script to do this in a manual, in an automated way. And if you need to know what this script do exactly, you can go to the help file concerning this script and read what does it do exactly. Okay, so we can see here, if we try to for example ask maybe Copilot to summarize this page. So I think here doesn't give us much info. Couple of problems concerning the script. When RM connection, the script encounters a problem connecting to the remote server, likely due to network accessibility for firewall setting. So you can find some issues concerning remote servers to apply this script to. If you are resetting KRBTG account for remote domain controllers, the PowerShell script designed to reset KRBTG password for both read-write domain controllers are read-only domain controllers. Execution modes. The script offers various methods of operation, including simulation and actual reset modes for both test and production accounts. So very, very good. I didn't know this. Email configuration. The script includes setting for sending logs via email with option for signing and encrypting emails using certificates. So he can send you an email, so you can automate the whole process, and at the end finishing of this process, it will send an email to your account or for your email account. So I think a very, very good one, but I didn't see it in action. So this needs to be tested in a testing environment. Anyway, so you can use the manual way, or you can use the automated way. You have both options. So I think we need to stop at this security indicator objects with constrained delegation configured. We will stop at this point and continue explanation in the upcoming video. Hope this video is informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.